Hey everyone, this is Kate Johnson, and we're about to get started on another Facebook Live with Shanita Jones. Glad to be here. If anyone is listening, if y'all can chime in to hold on. I did this again. If anyone can chime in and confirm that y'all are able to hear me, I'd appreciate it. We're hopefully going to be joined by Shanita, and she's on her way over. Shanita has been a part of the Bookkeeping Side Hustle group for several months and has graciously offered to give us some of her time this morning to discuss her journey to quitting her job and taking her business that she's been running kind of on the side, taking it full time. And thanks, Katie, for letting us know that you can hear. Shanita is here with us now. Can you hear me, Shanita?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, awesome. I am so glad that you are here to be able to share with us today. Folks, the way this will work is I have gotten some questions that I had to ask. Several of you have already submitted some questions, and so we're going to try to get through as many of those as possible. But also, feel free to chime in on the comment section, and we will try to get to as many audience questions as we can. And so we are going to dive right in because y'all don't want to hear me, you want to hear her. Shanita, tell us about who you are, your background. Tell us about your business. Just kind of give us an intro that you think is good for this audience to hear.
Okay, so first of all, thanks for having me. I'm so excited
Yeah.
to be here. I'm really flattered that you guys cared enough to hear about what I had to say. So, as you all know, my name is Shanita. I am a CPA. I've been a CPA. I'm going on my second year now. Woohoo.
Good
Um,
job.
I have and believe it or not, all of my degrees are actually in a business discipline. So I don't have an official accounting degree. I
Okay.
do have a concentration in my undergrad in accounting. I have worked as an accountant for about 15 years. I've worked in every industry from healthcare to energy, lending, construction, retail, manufacturing. So I have a pretty, and I'm sure I left something out. I have tax. I have a pretty vast accounting experience. I started my business 10 years ago as a side hustle. It wasn't really a side hustle, and it's actually kind of a little bit of a negative connotation.
Yeah.
Because I'm dealing with people's livelihoods, their futures, their family, all kinds of important things. But I did it while I went to school and while I raised my family and built my business. So I did it for a really long time. And about 2 months ago or 3 months ago, enough was enough. And I left and I went full time.
That's amazing. You mentioned all those different industries. So were you working in like an accounting firm and serving those industries, or were you a staff accountant for companies in those industries? Does that
So
make
I
sense?
worked. Yeah. I
Yeah,
get it.
okay.
I've never worked in public, so
Okay.
I'm not the traditional CPA that came up through the Big Four. I have not had that experience, that opportunity. Never worked for now. I worked for a large hospital, nonprofit institution, one of the top 10 in the country. That's where I really got my foundation. I had great mentorship and leadership, and I learned a lot there. And then I moved on to other positions. So I occupied roles from bookkeeper to staff accountant, accountant manager. I was a cost engineer. So I held a lot of titles in the accounting
Okay.
space.
Awesome. Okay, so you kind of said you started about 10 years ago on your own business. And I do just want to point out kind of early on for those of you who are listening to this, what she said about this idea of you dealing with people's livelihoods. The word side hustle, I think is, it's kind of like a popular word right now, but this is like a serious business. This isn't buying a pressure washer and pressure washing driveways like on Saturday because you're trying to pay off debt. This is a real discipline that people study years and years for. I mean, Shanita can, she's talking years here. And I don't want that to be a discouragement to people. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that this is a long game. If you need to make $5,000 fast, don't go buy the pressure washer and go pressure wash some houses or whatever. This is something that you have to constantly be learning. If Shanita stopped when she was taking those undergrad business classes, she would be a terrible accountant and bookkeeper right now. She has to keep learning. All the industries is constantly changing. So we use the word side hustle here just because I think it's kind of catchy and clever, but this is not a hobby. So cool. So 10 years ago, you did very seriously, but though on a small basis, start your own business. So you started with obviously first client. It's always like, just kind of makes you want to like, I don't know, hide under a pillow, but then you got to do the work. How did you get that first client? Tell us about that and what you felt, how you served them, mistakes you made, any of that.
My first client was an accident.
Oh, okay.
This was not the plan, okay? I was going to be
Right.
a CFO, touring the world. This is not what I was going to do. So
Okay.
I am a tax girl at heart. I do the bookkeeping because I want the clean books. And eventually I will remove myself more and more from the bookkeeping, but I always keep the messiest client. My worst client, I don't mean to call them bad because I love my clients, but I always keep my problem child because I never want to be that far removed that I don't know how to reconcile a bank account. So my first client, I started out as a tax preparer. I'm really tax heavy. So my first client I actually got because I was doing their tax return and they showed up with that traditional shoebox. It was literally a shoebox coupled by plastic bags from the supermarket. And I had to get all of this stuff together to do their taxes. Now, in my mind, remember, I come from corporate America. So in my mind, I wasn't doing bookkeeping. I was just getting the tax return ready. And then the next year, and another person. And I said, you know what? There is a need for this. People don't, they're sitting there on pins and needles when they go to get their taxes done. How much money did I make? How much do I owe? And I'm like, what the heck do you mean? How much money did you make? You need to know
Yeah.
this because I come from the corporate space. So I began to explain to them what they needed to do monthly, why they needed to do it. And then one lady said, well, why don't you do it for me? And I said, oh, well, that's not what I do. I just do taxes. And she was like, well, it's like you just did it to me. And my first client was born. And guess
Okay.
what? I fired her. She studied for the CPA exam, but she's back and she's better than ever. She was the worst, and now she is my favorite.
So you fired her, but you couldn't actually get rid of her? She kept staying?
Oh, yeah. I kept doing
Okay.
her taxes. I still did her taxes for their family's businesses. And then once I passed the CPA exam, because I told her, well, it's taking too much time. I really can't do this and give you the attention you need and give my studies and my family the attention that they deserve. So I'm gonna have to step back and I can give you three people that I really know, like, and trust and let them help you. And she said, nope. How long does it take to get a CPA? I'll wait. And she did not file her tax returns those 2 years. She really waited. And when I got done, I didn't even try to get her back. She came back.
Okay. Well, that's the value that we provide. Y'all need to pay attention to that because if you were just organizing the receipts from her shoebox, she would have been able to go someplace else. But you obviously were providing something else and doing the teaching and telling her, hey, if you're serious about your business, you need to not ever not know how much you're making.
Right.
So awesome. Well, that's a great story. So let's talk about those early days, like sort of balancing you had a job and a family, it sounds like. How many hours were you working on your own business on top of, knowing that you had a career or you're a full-time job as well? How long were you working?
Well, I don't think my bosses will see this, so I'm going to tell y'all the truth. I don't like to waste lives. So
Okay.
I had a really cushy job. I was really good at my job. So I had a ton of free time. So I didn't have those scheduling issues. And this was early on. I'm tax only. I didn't have those issues that I see a lot of people post about. How do you coordinate your schedule to have calls and da da da? I didn't have that because I could
Okay.
just take a call or make a call if I needed to. So in the beginning, I was doing taxes. I don't really sleep a lot, but I worked probably during tax season, maybe an extra 30 hours a week on top of my full-time job and
Wow.
being in school because I've been doing this from associates, bachelor's, master's, CPA studies, wrote a book. So I am very nice and bubbly, but if anyone ever has any questions or tips, you can feel free to shoot me a message. But I'm going to tell you the truth because I read a lot of things that I do not like. So just because this is serious business.
Okay.
So once I started the bookkeeping, it got even more extreme. So I was literally working 80 hours a week, and then I hired someone. I have a couple of ladies that work for me, and they really help me and make me better. So now I'm able to delegate some of that responsibility. But before I left my job up until a few months ago, I was working 80 hours a week. I was busting my butt.
Okay, so I think that's really important. So that, in a way, I would like to say that that sounds very unglamorous.
It
That
is.
means you're not catching every game that your favorite sports team plays, or you're probably having to miss some stuff. And um, you look still on the younger side of life, and I think that's important for people to understand is like when you think about the long-term game, it's like it's the short-term pain for the long-term gain. And now I would assume you are able to, you quit your job. So all of a sudden in one day, you got 40 hours a week of your life back. And hopefully, I would, well, for your sake, I would hope that you're not planning on working 80 hours a week for the rest of your life. But you did that sacrifice of getting all the education and doing the studies um, and having to work a lot to make it work. So um, y'all know that. If you think that this is all glamour from the very beginning, it is not. Um,
And
so
oh, go ahead, Kate.
no, keep going, keep going.
Oh, so I want to tell you all, because I see a lot of people post about education and, oh, can I do this? Well, listen, you were talking to a teenage mom, high school dropout, okay? And
Okay.
by the grace of God and with the support of my family, some determination and some sleepless nights, I managed to, you know, get the GD, get the associate's, bachelor's, master's, CPA license. So it is doable. Okay. Don't ever think that because you're 30 or 40 or 50, I'm 37. I just found out I thought I was 38 for like the last 3 years. So um, I'm 37. So I squeezed a little I squeezed a lot into a little bit of time. And you don't need to get a master's necessarily or a CPA, but you do need to get that training. You do need that experience. You do need that mentorship.
Awesome. Let me think. Look at another one here. I guess I guess it's a general like pricing question. Like, are you able to talk about? I mean, obviously you don't want to say everything and all the details, but how much are you able to make, and maybe talk about it through the whole course of the 10 years? Obviously, someone with 10 years uh, of their own business and more extra years of experience on top of that, um, they're going to make more than someone like me who I've been doing this for 2 years. So just talk about the pricing trajectory. A lot of people are curious about that. They just straight up want to know, like, how much am I going to make if I do this? So
Okay.
what do you have to say about that?
Okay. So I left a job, a really good job as a cost engineer. I was making in the low six figures. I never wanted to leave my job until I could match at least my take home pay. But I am a little greedy and my kids are a little spoiled. So I stayed beyond it. Today, don't tell my kids now, but today I make more than I made in corporate America. I don't work 80 hours a week anymore. Last week, I worked 10 hours.
Okay.
I'm going to pay for it next week, but that's okay. um, So in terms of pricing, I'm a big follower of Ron Baker. I don't know if you guys listen to him.
Ryan, say that again. Ryan Baker?
Ron Baker.
Okay.
Um, I'm a student. I'm a lifelong student. Ben Brown is like my personal mentor. Ron Baker, I listen to him a lot. He talks a lot about value pricing. Mark Wickersham is a good one. Hector Garcia. So I kind of taken a Veronica Wasick. I kind of taken all of these things that I've learned from all of these thought leaders of the industry, and whenever I can, I pick their brains for knowledge. And the thing that it all boils down to me is I don't price the job, I price the client. So what's worth $1 to you may be worth $5 to someone else. So I make sure that when I price a job that I'm gonna give them more value in relation to what I'm charging them.
Okay.
So I don't have I've been testing some pricing things out lately. I've been
Okay.
testing out the packages, but I make it clear that they're base packages, they're customizable because there is no one size fits all. I do not
Hmm.
charge by transaction or by bank account. I try to even stay away from pricing by gross revenue, but that is something that I take into consideration. So I look at it. Obviously, if you're commingling, it's going to cost you more than it's going to cost you if you're good.
If you're
If
well
you
behaved.
I'm sorry, my phone, my some thing came up on the phone. If
No,
you
it's
are
okay.
a partnership and I have to maintain multiple basis accounts for multiple partners, I'm going to charge a premium for that. And I'm keeping all of these things in mind because as I'm moving through it, I'm always thinking about the tax. If you need budgeting and forecasting projections, those higher level things, I'm going to charge you more than I'm going to charge you if it's just strictly compliance, reconciling bank accounts, and passing it off to the tax person. So it really varies.
Um, Before we move on, a quick, easy question about that resource you said. Are you saying Ron, R-O-N, Baker, or Ryan? Can you spell
Run,
that?
RON. Mm-hmm.
R-O-N. Okay. Um,
He's brilliant.
okay, awesome. So I have a couple things something you've made me. So if you're making more than you did at your recently quit job, um, so there was a period of time then when you were making a whole lot of money then when you were working both, right? Um,
Yeah.
so just tell me how you managed that. So there's good, and also I also want to know. I think that people can probably make the jump before they match their salary. So I'm just curious about your thinking about why you had to get to 100% of your salary before you felt comfortable quitting. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if you can get to like 50% or 60 or something like that, and then you quit and you have this explosion of time, then within a short amount of time you'd be able to really ramp up and match that salary. But you seem to have taken a really conservative stance on that on the personal income side. So
Well,
talk about your thoughts about how you managed the big decrease in salary, even though you were basically making two full salaries, and then why you decided to wait so long.
well, there's a number of reasons, and I'll be
Okay.
honest. The number one reason was fear. The number one
Okay.
reason was I was always wondering, well, what if this person leaves and this person is X percent? Like at one point, I had one client that was 30% of my revenue.
Okay.
Another thing I did was while I was working both jobs, I did not spend the side hustle money because
Okay.
when I left, I didn't want to ever return. So I saved it. I paid bills down. Student loans is a biggie. I have a 21-year-old in college. So I made sure that I was able to take care of all the things I had to because I didn't want to put that burden on my husband, even though he wanted me to quit. He wanted me to quit when I was at like 20%. He was like,
Okay.
you
I
gotta
mean,
stop this.
yeah.
Yeah, he was like, you don't need to do this. Why are you doing this to yourself? So I just wanted to make sure that I didn't leave because this was my dream. I didn't want, everyone else to feel the ramifications of me and my dreams because my family sacrificed so much for me to go to school. It wasn't just financial, but it was time. It was nights when my husband had to do most of the stuff for the kids. I always worked from home, so the kids would do their homework at one desk and I would be at my desk. So we were always together. I was never absent. But like we're watching family movies or having a family event, I'm in the corner with a laptop, whether it's
Yeah.
school or work. So they sacrifice so much, and I honestly did not want to let them down. I didn't understand until I left, and my son, my 14-year-old, and my husband talked to me, and they said, "You can't let us down. You've already defeated all odds. You've already been brave enough to take this leap." But it was fear, and it was undue pressure that I put on myself. Nobody, actually, this was all me. Um, so fear held me back. It took me so long to quit, and then when I finally did, but what my advice to someone else would be, I would say a lot of people tell you have 6 months of expenses saved up or
Okay.
whatever. With my advice, if I was doing it all over again, I would tell you to pay down debt while you had an extra salary. I would tell you, of course, to make sure that you adjust that W-4 at work to compensate for the taxes that you're going to have to pay in addition to what you're accustomed to paying. I would also tell them, I think a comfortable quit your job salary would probably be somewhere around 60 to 70%. But
Okay.
the time that you're going to get and the productivity you'll be able to realize and having that free time is really invaluable. And I would just say, look before you leave. Don't let people get in your head and tell you you need to leave now and you can do it. You got to do what's right for you. You got to feel right about taking that jump when you do. But don't wait 10 years like I did and miss out on so much and put all this pressure on your husband and got your husband baking cakes and pies. And, you know, my son made the soccer team. He's a striker now. That's really important. So I have been at every soccer game. That is what that is like everything to me. And I'm not a soccer fan. I'm an AJ fan. But before this, I would come at the end of the soccer game because I worked 50 hours in corporate. So I would come at the end of the soccer game. I'm rushing. I'm tired. I'm out of breath. I didn't get to experience all these things. So I would just say, do what's right for you. Don't wait too long, and don't let anybody push you either.
Okay. Um, Let me go to where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? Someone suggested, are you going to be doing audits? Are you going to be doing advisory? What's your short-term plan?
In the next 3 to 5 years, I actually want to do more resolution and representation on the tax side.
Huh,
I hope
okay.
to grow. I hope to grow my bookkeeping team. So right now we work with a lot of bookkeepers. We do a lot of tax prep for bookkeepers. We do a lot of complex intercompany things that they might need help with, whatever we help with that. And then I have some on my team. So honestly, I hope to grow a little bit more on the bookkeeping side through the next tax season. And then I want to focus more on representation, more on advisory level services. And but before the 5th year, I'll do reviews and audits for nonprofits only though.
Okay. Um, I want you to actually explain a little more about how your current firm works. So are all your I know you said you're a tax girl at heart. So are all your clients, like if you take off on a bookkeeping client, do you do automatically do their taxes? Number two, and I'm interested in that because I don't do taxes. And so I'm just curious about other business models, kind of in my heart, I kind of realize like I'm probably more valuable if I do taxes because, but anyway, I don't know that I will be able to add that skill set anytime in the short term. But so that's a question. And then you also just said that you work with other bookkeepers in your practice. So that
Mhm.
seems interesting to me. If you're also a bookkeeper, how do you work with other bookkeepers? Is it someone like me who doesn't do taxes? And then so I would just be, hey, clients, yes, I'll do your books and I got a great tax person for you. So explain how your firm works.
So for the people that we do that service with, some of them are in this group. I hope they're watching. um, So for those people, what we would do is that firm will retain the client. Is their client, it's not my client. We do not compete. We sign a non-compete, non-solicitation, or whatever, and we just do the tax work. Then we have other people that don't have EFINs, they aren't set up to do tax, and they just say, hey, a CPA that we work with, I can go ahead and refer you to her. She'll take care of your taxes. I send them back. I never make you look bad in front of your client. If I get a hold of your books and they are jacked up, I already have permission from the client to communicate with you. I'm calling you and I'm calling you on it. And I'll have make sure you get it together. And then we go ahead and we do the tax return. Um, so
But you do bookkeeping too.
I do.
Okay.
Mhm.
I don't understand what you just said about you have some bookkeeping referral partners that you are the actual tax preparer and you're communicating with the client. But then you have other bookkeeping referral partners that they actually have a front of doing the taxes, but really it's behind the scenes and you are. How does that explain that? This is new for me.
I'm a contractor for them. So
Okay.
they so you have Kate's Bookkeeping, and
Yeah.
Kate's Bookkeeping offers all this stuff. And then
I
you
can
get
offer
a
taxes.
well, if you follow all of the rules to get set up, your EFIN, your P10, everything you need. But
Okay.
you come across a tax situation that's above what you're comfortable in doing. And you don't want to touch it because you're not going to do anything that is above what you are able to do. So they call me up and they say, Shanita, can you handle such and such? I say yes, and I do it. And
So what if I'm not comfortable doing any taxes? Do I still call you?
you
I mean,
could,
can you still
or you
serve me
could,
for easy, I guess super easy easy guys? I can still partner with someone like you. So then I can
yeah,
actually say, "Come on," and I tell my clients like, I'll handle your taxes, but really it's you."
yeah. You'll say, well, you're not gonna lie, but you're gonna
Sure.
tell them we handle everything. So
Okay.
some people have everything set up and I just use their software, their system, and other people don't have everything set up and they just refer me to business and I just we work it that way. So it
Okay, I
works two
gotcha.
different ways. Hmm.
That's awesome. So that's kind of you talked about your short-term plans to do you have a retirement date goal, like when you want to shut the door?
I do. So my goal was to be corporate America retired by 40.
All right, you did
Praise
that.
God, I've done that. So now my goal is to be I want my firm to be independent of me by the time I'm 45. I'm
Okay.
not gonna stop working. Um, I'm always gonna keep that problem child, uh, bookkeeping client. I'm always gonna do the complex tax returns or at least review because I love it. Um, but I'm really in the position of building my people up, building the people that I work with up so that they can run even when I'm not here.
Okay.
And it'll be a seamless process. But I really want to do more speaking engagements, more traveling. So I have to free my time up. And the only way I'm going to be able to do that is that I make sure that all of my people are better than me.
Okay. Um, I'm trying to bring up some of these questions. Okay, I got the comments up now. All right, so we've gotten to some of our actual submitted questions. You kind of talked about your pricing. Sorry, I gotta pause that. Hold on, guys. I got two things. Let me mute that. Sorry. Okay. We have a question from Matthew. Why did you finally decide to sit for the CPA? Now that you have your CPA, do you feel it was worth it financially and the struggle of studying for it?
I totally feel like it's worth it. That was a goal for a long time. I honestly set for my CPA originally. Well, ultimately, the bottom line is I wanted more money. So
Okay.
I had to make myself more valuable um, to clients. I started out with the EA, but no one
Okay.
knew what that was. The EAs don't get their proper due. And the exam was too damn hard for no one to know what I was doing. So I said, if I'm going to suffer, I'm going to suffer for the gold standard. but I might go back and get my EA just because it won't hurt. Um,
Is the
so
CPA harder than the EA though?
yes,
Okay.
the EA is all multiple choice. The CPA is multiple choice. There's written communication. There's simulations,
Okay.
and it's only one part of the CPA exam that handles tax, but it's not all tax. Whereas the EA is like all tax. Um,
Okay.
but the EA was hard. I never sat. I just did all of the studying, and then I thought about where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do, and I wanted to be more well rounded and not just tax. And I wanted a designation that the public will recognize. And unfortunately, EAs don't get the credit that they deserve.
Okay. Let me look real quick. How did you get your degree? Part-time or full-time?
Nothing was easy. Everything was part-time. I worked 40 hours a week the entire time. I will tell you that when I got my associates, most of that was done in class. The last, I went to community college. The
Okay.
last four classes I did online. My bachelor's, I did that online, but I did have to go to the brick and mortar school building to take capstone courses. And then
Okay.
my master's was all online, and all of my CPA studies were online.
Okay. Um, what did you do leading up to quitting your full-time job to feel confident that you could quit? What were those last like the last year? What went on? What was different about that last few months last year than the previous 9 years?
Well, I stayed at the job that I was at the longest, where I said I got my foundation for 9 years, or 8 or 9 years, because I was learning so much there. They paid for my degrees. So I stayed there for so long because, and it was close to home. My kids were young. I was close to my family, my mom, my siblings, blah, blah, blah. So I stayed there because I knew that was part of the plan. So as I got closer and closer to the ultimate CPA goal, I began to take more risks because now I had more to fall back on in terms of education and experience. So the last job that I took was a little over a year ago, and it was a W-2 contractor role. And I took that job with a mindset that I would only be here for a year. And it was so hard because they paid me more money than I ever made in my life. But I knew that I didn't like the culture there, the corporate culture. And I didn't like the value that they placed on employees. So it was kind of helpful to me to not like the place that I was at. I love the people, I love the work, but I didn't like the company culture. So that made it easier. And whenever I would get upset or not like what was going on, I would just remind myself, you don't need to be here. You're only here because you're crazy and you don't listen to your husband and your kids. So I would tell myself, you don't need to be here. You don't need to be here. But you know what? I got sick. I got sick. My husband said, that's it. I am going to that job, or you are going to the doctor. I didn't want my husband to come to that job, so I went to the doctor, like a good wife should, right? And I thought the doctor would give me a couple of days off. The doctor actually gave me 3 weeks off. And when I went back, I was still out. So during that time out, I kind of had time to reflect and think about what I really wanted to do. And then, my family had an intervention with me,
Okay.
and they told me I wasn't going back to work. So I was.
Okay. Um, this is off on a completely different topic, but I think it's important. What are you doing for healthcare?
Oh, well, I'm on my husband's healthcare plan, but I have
Okay.
a lot of clients that have the healthcare concern, and a lot of them are on Obamacare. I don't even know if it's still called that, but a lot of them are on that. And then some of them work with large payroll providers, and they get group healthcare plans through those places. So that's always an option. Healthcare did was one of the things that made me want to stay for a long time because I liked us having that double coverage because I'm the cautious one, but
You
I'm
are.
on my
Yeah.
husband's plan. Yeah.
Okay. But okay, well then I think that's fair. it's an easier route than some people might have the
Mhm.
ability to do. So, but it is a concern, and so that's your story. It's not right or wrong or good or bad. It just is, and so that's good to know. Um, all right, one question, and I'm going to try to keep us here for about maybe 5 or 6 more minutes, Shanita, just because I don't want
Okay.
to take up everyone's time with listening to us babble. We can just call each other later. So walk us through the monthly process of a single client from getting the data to getting paid.
Okay, so honestly, I have this email. It's like the standard email that everybody gets. So I asked them, I copy paste the email and tweak it per client, but they get the same email. I'm like, thank you, we're excited to have you. And I ask for everything that I need. I send them access so that they can upload everything into their folders. I get all permissions that I need. I get everything set up. Once it's set up, of course, there's a ton of crap sitting next to my accountant. I don't know what to do with it. I grab that data, I pop it into a Google Sheet, make it
Okay.
look pretty and organized, and then I ask them 2 columns, well, usually 2 columns. How should this be classified? And then if it's a partnership or an S corp, I'll say if it's personal, who is it attributable to? And then I turn the notifications on, wait for it to come back, and then boom, reconciliation, statements reviewed. I'll usually send a video of me going over the statements, explaining it to them, and set up a call for us to talk later. So that way I don't have to go through teaching you to read it. I've already taught you how to read it, and I will not talk to you until you watch my video. And I know if you watched it because I can tell when it's been viewed.
Who do you use for that? What
I
service?
use Loom. Loom.
That's amazing. And so
Yes.
if they say, let's set up a video, you say, hey, do you say, like, you call them out, hey, I see you haven't watched, I know you haven't watched it. I mean, do some
Yeah.
people not watch? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's really brilliant. So then that allows you to still keep your, I mean, like my engagement contract says, like, the monthly time that they're allowed based on, their level of service for, for video conference. And if you're not having to go through the nitty gritty, then they schedule the call with you, you're able to do the more valuable stuff. Like you can talk strategy and talk, I mean, it'll just naturally lend itself to more high level conversations than like clicking around on a dang profit and loss statement, like that's kind
It,
of for the
it, it
birds. So
actually requires it actually requires less communication
yeah,
because I'm going through it. I'm answering questions before you're asking them, and then I ask them to send me any questions or concerns in advance. And it's really important, especially for the newbies out there. If you can get all of the questions that you need in advance, that allows you time to research it. It allows you time after you've researched it, of course, to post questions, to ask things that you want to know, so that you can go into that conversation empowered and confident, knowledgeable, and not babbling over your own words. Because
yeah.
I've done that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've polished for 10 years, and so I feel kind of like a stumbling, bumbling person sometimes, but
Oh, I still do
I'm
it.
but I'm not where you are. Like it would be like that's just not how life works. I have to learn no matter what. Like I don't have all the skills that you have. And
We're
lots of people
always
watching this are
learning.
not. Yeah.
We're always
Um,
learning. I'm always learning new skills. I am nowhere near there.
that's awesome. Okay, let me see. Marketing. How do you find new clients?
I ask. We have not
You ask
because
for
we've asked not.
referrals.
Yeah.
Okay.
I ask for referrals. I ask for reviews everywhere I can get them. Um, Another thing that I do is during tax time, when I have those Schedule C people and those Schedule E people, I'm sorry for those of you that don't do taxes. I mean, the independent contractors or the landlord people, I ask for their business. I went to a restaurant, and I don't do restaurants, but I went to a restaurant and I noticed that it was under new ownership. So and I'm an outgoing person too, so I think that helps a little. So I just say, hey, you must be new owners because the food is really good now. And the guy said, yeah. And I said, well, I'm not dressed, so pretend like you didn't see me today. I'm going to come back tomorrow and I'm going to talk business with you. So the guy laughed and he asked me who I was and what I did and what business that I had. I told him I'm a CPA and I'm trying to grow my practice. I'm interested in getting more clients. Do you have an accountant? So every opportunity is an opportunity. Everybody that knows me knows what I do. So that's how I get clients.
That's I found that I've gotten better about that. Just a week ago, I was working after a meeting I had. It's a Bible study I do. I was using the Wi-Fi because I had like an hour to kill before I had to go pick up my kids, and so I just brought my stuff set up, and I have a sticker on my laptop that says I'm a bookkeeper. And so this friend, acquaintance, was like, oh, tell me about it. So I told her about it. And then yesterday, I see her again the following week, and I just gave her 5 business cards, which is, not the, I just basically, I forced myself to say, hey, I know we talked a little bit about business last week. I just want to give you these because she was like engaged in the conversation. She's like, oh yeah, I know. I mean, she's, you know, probably 60 years old and has lived here forever, so has like contacts in the area. And like all morning long, I was like, I put the cards in my pocket and I was like, I'm gonna just hand these to her. And if she throws them away, that's fine. They cost, 2 cents each. But
Mhm.
maybe she'll throw them away still, but I think she's gonna remember that like, no, I'm real. Like I've got a card and I'm looking for business. And
Mhm.
so that's just silly example of me trying to do what you were doing, which is just, hey, spread the word. um,
And bookkeepers, even CPAs that do bookkeeping, I think I speak for a lot of us when I say it's not our passion to do bookkeeping. So it doesn't hurt to ask someone, hey, do you have, I specialize in XYZ. If you need any help, you can call me. I'm here. So even though I might do bookkeeping, I'm not an e-commerce bookkeeper. So I wouldn't even take an e-commerce client because I don't have that skill set. So, well, I don't have the patience. That's what it really is. I tried it. I have one, but whatever. But if I know that that's what you specialize in, and I know that you're looking for clients, and I know that I'm a CPA, and I may charge differently than you charge, I may still go ahead and take the work just because I know that I can have you do it. So
okay.
I think CPAs, EAs are good. Real estate agents are excellent sources of referrals. So, you just kind of be wise and think outside the box and start backwards. Think not about how do I get a client? Think about who needs me, why do they need me, and what can I do for them? Nobody cares about their account being reconciled. Nobody cares about their profit and loss statement, their balance sheet balance. They do care that they're able to make more money, get their taxes filed on time. They care that they're able to get that mortgage, that they're able to get a loan. So focus on the end game, and then that'll help you out in the beginning game. It'll become easier.
Awesome. Some more questions from the audience. How long did it take you to get your CPA? Real quick answer.
18 long months.
Okay. Um, okay. Can you get into what you were able to charge before you had your CPA and after? You don't have to give specific numbers, but just what kind of bump did that give you?
Okay. I'm gonna give you specific numbers. So remember that client I told you about that was my first client that I broke up with her. So when I was doing her work before, and y'all gonna kill me for this, and I was doing her bookkeeping and her payroll, and I was charging her $185 a month, and I was doing biweekly payroll corrections, and everything. Now I don't even do her payroll. I do the bookkeeping once a month, and she pays 450. But she only
Okay.
pays 450 because she's a early client. So I'll never. I keep all of my A1 day one from the beginnings. I have a cat. They'll never cross their cat, no matter what they do. They can make $1 million. They believed in me when no one else did. So I'm gonna ride with them.
All right. Um, Jackie asks, I've been in business since 2016. I'm stuck at making around 70K a year. It seems like I'm stuck. Do you have any advice you can share?
That's a nice place to be stuck. It's not too shabby. Raise your prices. I know that sounds kind of counterproductive. But if you want a higher bottom line, you got two choices. You're either gonna raise your revenue or you're gonna cut your
Cut
costs. So
costs.
your net profit is gonna come up. Raise your prices. You've been in business since 16. You got 3 years under your belt, plus whatever you did before that, Jackie. So I'm willing to bet that you are giving away the cow when they're only paying for the milk. So you're probably doing some advisory, you're probably doing some tax planning, some strategy, maybe some business development. Maybe you can't go too high on your current clients, but for the incoming clients, the prospects, be mindful of that. And also every year in your contract, you should have a clause that states that there's going to be an increase. I don't specify what the percentage increase is going to be because I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they're not going to be subject to an increase. I'm not going to increase them if it isn't warranted. But when we work in corporate America, even they give us some type of cost of living raise every year. So give yourself a raise your fees.
Okay. And Jackie, I don't know if you heard the beginning of this, but she listed a lot of really experienced mentors and coaches, probably around before the first 10 minutes of the call, listed a bunch of those names that are great pricing, people who have a lot of information that they put out about how accountants should price. So I would go there. Shanita, this is going to be our last question. Could you identify any workflows you have in place in order to get your clients' books completed on a monthly basis? Maybe talk about just like your 2 top workflow concepts, and then we're going to let you get back to running your new awesome accounting firm.
So I use the QuickBooks Work tab, even though it's
Okay.
not perfect, but I use it because I have a few people on my team, so it's everybody in one place. I'm also testing out Passable Workflow, so I hope the creator watches this because I have a little bit of a wish list for it, and I pretty much use my phone, and I have a whiteboard which you can't see, so anything pressing I keep on a whiteboard because it's in my face. So excuse me. I've tried Canopy. I've sampled a lot of them, but I haven't found one that does a really good job at mixing tax and accounting that works the way I want it to work. So I'm really looking at Pascal and hoping that it'll work my way, and we can use that completely.
All right. Any last words of wisdom?
Um,
It's okay if you don't.
no. I'll give you one. I would say I want to respond to a lot of the questions that I see. Now, I'm always nice, but I have to be serious. For those of you that post, oh, I'm a stay-home dad or mom, and I just want to make some money, so I'm just gonna go get QuickBooks and make a lot of money. Do yourself a favor. These are people's lives, their livelihood, their retirement, their family income. Please do not take on that which you're unable to do. Now, I love it when I get a nice big cleanup job because it's a nice big chunk of cash coming through the door at once. But I've seen businesses close because of this. I've seen people go bankrupt because of people that were just operating a little bit out of their element. If you don't know, it's okay not to know. I don't know everything. Get a mentor. Pay somebody to review your stuff. Get a buddy and swap for free, following all ethical guidelines, of course. But just be careful. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Know when to ask for help. Know who to ask for help. And for those that may be more experienced, um, I know we like to get on the newbies a lot when they're asking questions. And it's like, you should not be touching that if you're asking it. But, show them a little bit of grace, still be hard on them and let them know, like, hey, dude, you really need to pick up this accounting 101 book or something like that. But,
Right.
let's just all treat everybody like we want to be treated. Let's treat our clients' money like it's our money. Would you play with your money not knowing what you're doing? If not, you really don't want to do it to someone else. Not only could you potentially be sued, but you could ruin someone's life. I have a case like that this morning. Somebody's life is completely screwed up because some tax person decided that they were going to operate somewhere where they really weren't qualified to operate with. So that's my
Okay.
word of wisdom.
I love it. And I am so thankful that you did this. I mean, this is just great. We'll bring you back on in a year and
Okay.
ask you how it's going.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. I am looking at some of the questions on my other screen. So if anybody had any questions that we didn't get a chance to cover, you guys all know where to reach me. I'll get back to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and we're signing off. Bye.
All right. Thank you.